Hey guys, before we start into the audiobook, I'd just like to give a huge shout out to my friend Hyper Savage. He's a really small YouTube creator with only like 13 subs, so it would be a huge help if you go and check out his channel. He posts daily Fortnite videos and streams, so yeah, it would be really appreciated if you can go check out his channel. I'll leave a link in the description, so can you please go and check it out? And let's get started. Geronimo Stilton, Bollywood Burglary, read by Hosea Tong Ho. That day began like any other day. It seemed like a perfectly normal day, in fact. But it turned out to be one of the most incredible, mouse-tastic days of my life. By the time I put my snout back on my pillow that night, my life had changed forever. Oh, excuse me, I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I am the editor of the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. Now, where was I? Oh yes. My morning began like any other. I climbed out of bed and scampered to my office. Once I got settled at my desk, I started brainstorming. I had to come up with an idea for a new series of books. Should I write a book about gardening? Or do-it-yourself projects? Or sports? Or... I thought and thought and thought. By lunchtime, I was still thinking. And then something strange happened. I glanced out the window, and there was a small plane towering a banner right outside. I mean, right outside my office? Visit India, it said. That was unusual. The mail mouse came and left my 94 travel brochures about India. That was a bit odd. A second later, the phone rang and a strange rodent squeaked. My dear Mr. Stilton, how about a trip to India? I'll give you a discount. Thanks, but I think I'll pass, I answered. Then I got an email with a very weird invitation. A message for Mr. Stilton. Would you like to try a delectable assortment of delicious dishes? Come to the Taj Mahal Indian restaurant, 17 Spice Street. It will be whisker-licking good. That was a wee bit bizarre, but on the other paw, it was lunchtime, and I was hungry. I didn't want to think twice about food, so I hailed a taxi and headed towards 17 Spice Street. When my cab screeched up to the curb, I spotted a fabumouse painted wooden door and smelled an intriguing array of spices. Yummy, yum, yum. It sure smelled whisker-licking good. As soon as I entered the restaurant, as my waiter with fur and shining whiskers scurried over. Yoo-hoo! Welcome, my dear Stilton. Have you ever been to India? He asked. No, not yet, I answered. But that's an absolutely elementary. You are thinking of going then? He said. Actually, no, I replied. Actually, yes, you will be soon. Very, very soon. In fact, let's make a bet. I bet that you will go to India. Then the waiter waved a sheet of paper under my snout. Now sign right here, Stilton. I was flabbergasted. No restaurant had ever asked me to pay my bill before I'd even order my meal. But I was hungrier than a rat in a cheese shop. I couldn't wait to sit down and eat, so I signed. I took a better look at the waiter. There was something familiar about his snout. He also had a squeaky voice that reminded me of someone. Have we met before? I asked. No, the waiter replied. Whatever gave you that idea, my dear Stilton? He pushed me towards a table at the back of the room. The restaurant was lovely. The walls were covered with red silk tapestries, embroidered in gold, and there was a mouse-tastic fountain in the center of the dining area. Delectable aromas and fabumouse Indian music filled the air. Waiters scurried around with trays loaded with yummy dishes. I saw chicken tikka masala, which is chicken with creamy tomato sauce and spices, and samosas, which is stuffed fried pastries. I glanced at the menu. I'd like... But the waiter ripped the menu out of my paws. You don't know much about Indian food, Mr. Stilton, he snorted. Let me choose for you. Do you like spicy food? Yes, I do, I admitted, but not too spicy. The waiter ran off shouting, I'll bring you a meal. I'll knock your tail off. It will be very, very hot. As he disappeared into the kitchen, I heard him squeak, a spicy one for the rodent in the rear, heavy on the hot pepper that will make his whiskers do the loop-the-loop. 5 minutes later, he returned with a tray of steaming dishes. "Try the one with the hot pepper," he ordered. I tasted the first dish. It was hot. I tasted the second. It was very hot. Then I tasted the third dish. It was extremely hot. I wanted to stop, but the waiter kept shoveling spoonfuls into my snout. "Let's see how much this customer can take before he bursts," he cried gleefully. I couldn't take it anymore. "One more bite, Stilton," he insisted. "By the time you're in India, you'll be used to hot peppers." "But I'm not going to India," I protested. "But you will go to India," he insisted. "Want to bet on it?" When he shoveled a dollop from dish number 10 into my mouth, steam started coming out of my ears. Smoking samosas. That was one fur-raising hot pepper. "I'm burning up," I screeched. I ran into the fountain and dunked my whole head into it. I heard a sizzle. When I returned to my table, the waiter asked, "So when are we going to India?" "I'm too busy, okay?" I shouted. B-U-S-Y. Very busy. I can't possibly go to India. The waiter was disappointed. "Geronimo, you're such a fur-brain," he scolded me. "I was really hoping you'd go to India with me." And that's when I recognized him. "You're not a waiter. You're my detective friend, Hercule Poirat," I cried. Poirat pulled off his wig and ripped a slick moustache from his snout. "Yes, it is. I, Poirat, Hercule Poirat, and you simply must go to India with me." I shook my snout. "I can't go to India with you. I'm too busy, Hercule. I've told you over and over again." Poirat started to sob. "Yes, my dear Stilton, you did tell me several times, in fact, but I need your help. Please, I'm begging you." I rolled my eyes. Poirat must have noticed, because he changed tactics. He dried his tears on my jacket sleeve and blew his nose on my tie. "So do you have your passport on you?" he asked calmly. "We could leave right now." By this time, I was annoyed. "I'm sorry, but I simply cannot go." "My dear Stilton, why must you be so stubborn?" he squeaked loudly. "Don't you want to go to India?" Every snout in the restaurant turned to look at me. "Is that Geronimo Stilton? Why doesn't he want to go to India? Does he dislike India? But why? No, it's not. I don't have anything against India. I'm sure I would love it there." I cried in exasperation. "He said he'd love it there," Hercule shouted. Faster than the mouse who ran up the clock, he reached into my pocket and pulled out my passport. How positively bananerific. "You and I are going to India, Jerrykins. Don't be such a fly in the fondue. You've run out of excuses. Look, I've found your passport." "You still haven't said why I have to go to India," I shouted. "Can you please just tell me?" He pulled out a photo and glanced at me mysteriously. "Do you recognize this rodent? Look closely." I saw the beautiful snout of an Indian mouselet I didn't recognize. "It's Ratna," Hercule squeaked. "Ratna? Dear Ratna," I repeated. A million memories flooded my snout. Ratna was an old and dear friend from mouselinghood. She and Hercule and I had attended Little Tales Academy together. It was a sad day for us when she and her family moved back to India. "My dear Stilton, don't you remember? We promised we would be friends forever. Me, you, and Ratna," Hercule squeaked. "Yes, of course I remember, and I always keep my promises." "What's that got to do with India?" I asked. Poirat chuckled. "Everything, Jerrykins," he said. "Don't damage your little grey souse, old friend. Simply use your eyeballs and take a good look at the ruby in the photo." He showed me a magazine with a photo of an enormous heart-shaped ruby. It was magnificent, so brilliantly red, so dazzling. Ratna's fiancé gave her this ruby as an engagement gift. Poirat explained that's quite a gift," I exclaimed. "It must be priceless." Poirat sighed, and since Ratna has had the ruby, there have been several attempts to steal it. That's why she wants us to travel around India with her during the shoot for her next film. Restless heart. She needs protection, and she wants to make sure no rodent with sticky paws tries to steal her ruby. I've already promised her we would come. He showed me the email Ratna sent us asking for help. "Dear Hercule and Geronimo, it's been many years since our childhood, but I know that you two are my true friends. That's why I am coming to you for help. I am about to shoot a new film, and I'm afraid someone will try to steal the Heart of Fire, the famous ruby my fiancé gave me. Dear friends, I need your help. Could you come protect me and this precious jewel during the shoot? Your friend, Ratna, forever." "Why didn't you tell me that this was all to help Ratna?" I scolded Hercule. Of course I will help. Rat is an old friend, and true friendship is as rare as fine cheddar. Ahem. There's just one more thing you should know, my dear Stilton, Poirat mumbled. I looked at him suspiciously. What is it? Spit it out. Poirat looked sheepish. Well, you see, I also told Ratner that you'd be acting alongside her in the film. That way we'll have someone undercover, and no one will be able to steal the ruby, he added quickly. It was a genius idea, right, Jerrykins? He took out his mouse phone and showed me an article about the new movie.
My eyes almost popped out of their sockets. There was a big picture of me. It was a poster for all the Bollywood movie, and it had been distributed all over India. Restless Hearts, starring Ratna Prem and Geronimo Stilton, I read. But I don't know how to act. I can't possibly be the lead mouse in a film. I won't do it! Hercule coughed. Jerrykins, I'm afraid you've already signed the contract with the movie producer. Spicy cheesed it. I certainly did not sign a contract, I protested. Hercule giggled. Oh, yes, you certainly did. Hercule handed me the paper, and I had previously assumed was the restaurant bill. Acting contract for the film Restless Hearts. I, Geronimo Stilton, residing at 8 Mouseford Lane, New Mouse City, Mouse Island, undertake with this contract to star in the film Restless Hearts, opposite the actress Ratna Prem. I will make arrangements to leave immediately for India in order to start filming the movie. I further commit myself to take dance lessons, singing lessons, and Hindi lessons in order to better perform my role in the film. Signed, Geronimo Stilton.
Along with an enormous magnifying glass so I could examine it. No, I really did sign it, I cried in despair. Yay, you really did. Hercule squeaked happily. He waved 2 airline tickets under my snout. I bought the tickets to India. We're leaving today. Aren't you excited, Jerrykins? We must leave immediately. I started to sob. What could I do? The idea of being in a movie was totally terrifying, but it was all to help an old friend. So how could I refuse? Even though so many years had gone by, Rashina still had a special place in my heart. At the very least, I was looking forward to seeing her. I packed my suitcase and headed to the airport with Hercule. The trip was very long, and Hercule blabbed the entire time. First, he told me the plot of Restless Heart in great detail. Hercule and I were sitting next to each other, so there was no escape. He read me a super mega huge guidebook of India from cover to cover. We landed in New Delhi, the Indian capital city. By that time, I was so worried about the film that my eyes were wider than the wheels of cheese. But at least I knew practically everything about India. As soon as the planes hatched open, a wave of hot, humid air greeted us. It smelled of flowers and spices. I could see the city's skyline in the distance. I have to admit, I was also so excited. I was practically jumping out of my fur. You see, I love to travel, and I've always longed to visit India. We were in India, one of the most fascinating countries in the world. Our trip had just begun, but my heart was already beating faster than a hamster on a wheel. We were going to have an adventure of a lifetime. As soon as we arrived in New Delhi, Hercule stuffed me, my achy tail, and all my suitcases inside a taxi. Scurry up, my dear Stilton. They're waiting for us. The taxi dropped us in front of an enormous theatre. Outside there was a sign that read, Screen test for the movie Restless Hearts, film crew only. We can go in here, Jerrykins. You're the lead actor, Hercule said, smirking under his whiskers. Dear reader, I'm a very shy mouse. Why? Just the thought of squeaking in public makes me blush to the roots of my fur. How in the name of string cheese was I going to act in front of a movie camera? I changed my mind. I'm going home, I stammered. Hercule grabbed me by the tail. What about Ratna? Some friend you turned out to be. I thought of Ratna and sighed. She was my friend. I couldn't abandon her. So I scampered into the theatre. All the lights were off, except for the spotlight on the stage, which was shining on a group of dancers. They were all singing in chorus. He could feel that they were drifting apart. He understood that he had been mistaken. Alas, he had never had her heart. Alas, 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 he was forsaken. Beside the dancers, there were dozens of other rodents in the theatre, busily scurrying to and fro. Poirat pointed out each one to me. That's the director, and that's his assistant. That mouser is the costume designer. That's the makeup artist, and that's... Welcome to India, Mr. Stilton, someone squeaked from behind. I turned and saw a mouse with an extremely long braid. I am Vandana Raktika, the casting director for Restless Hearts, she said in a gentle tone. She looked me over from the top of my ears to the tip of my tail. Now, Mr. Stilton, you are playing the Prince of Mysore. You'll be amazing, perfect, incredible. Vandana pushed me towards the stage. Let me see how you dance, Mr. Stilton. I turned redder than a cheese rind. I don't know. I mean, I haven't got a clue how to, dance. The dancers turned to stare at me. Then they began murmuring. Did you hear that? He doesn't know how to dance. Suddenly, the theatre was so quiet, you could hear a cheese slice drop. The director, de Musapale, slapped me on the back so hard, my tailbone rattled. So what if he doesn't know how to dance? He'll learn, he cried. Mrs. Rattle will teach him. Everyone let out a sigh. Yes, Mrs. Rattle will take care of him. She will teach him everything he needs to know. He'll better learn. Or what? I cried, twisting my tail. I need to know. Tell me. But they ignored me and went back to their dancing. They leaped here and there to the beat of the music. They were so graceful. I knew I'd be able to dance like that. Hercule dragged me away to my trailer. Sleep tight, my dear Stilton, he told me. You need your rest. Tomorrow you'll be shaking your paw and prancing your paws off. The long trip from Mouse Island had worn me out. I closed my eyes and fell deep asleep. At dawn the following morning, Hercule woke me up, shrieking directly into my left ear. Wake up, my dear Stilton. Shake a paw. It's time to get your tail moving. My paws had barely touched the floor when Hercule poured a scalding cup of tea down my throat. It was so hot I burnt my gullet. Then he shoved a handful of candy into my snout. Here's some hot pepper candy. I added more hot peppers to give it extra zip. Like it, Jerrikins, he demanded. Arrgh, I screeched. The hot peppers candies had gone down the wrong way. I almost choked. A quick shower will perk you up. It will help you move those paws to the beat, Stilton, squeaked Hercule, pushing me into a cold shower. Help! You're going to freeze my tail off, I cried. So he turned the faucet. And instantly the water became boiling hot. No, I screeched. Now you're scorching the fur right off my back. Come on, Jerrikins. Why do you have to be so difficult? He complained. You're never happy. The steam into my shower was so thick I couldn't see my paws in front of my snout. I felt around for the shampoo, toothpaste, and fur gel, but the shampoo wouldn't lather. The toothpaste tasted worse than day-old tuna. The gel matted my fur like a mangy marmot. Squeak. I had washed my fur with toothpaste brush, my teeth with shampoo, and combed my fur with callus cream. Ha ha ha! At least you won't have any calluses in your fur, Hercule giggled. The day had started all wrong. I was afraid to think about how it would end. Piramushi, the costume designer, brought me my costume, a silk tunic, a pair of bright green pants, and fabumouse turban with a jewel. Once I was dressed, the makeup artist came to put on my makeup. After she was finished, she led me into a big room with wooden floors. Waiting for me there was my dance teacher, Sadal Ratal. Mrs. Rattel was an elderly rodent with snow-white fur gathered into a tight bun. She wore a pink sari and held a wooden stick in her paw. She had a very severe expression on her snout. "Mr. Stilton, my name is Siddy, which means perfection," she squeaked sternly, "and I expected you to learn how to dance perfectly." Then she rapped me on the tail with the stick. "Now for your first dance lesson, Mrs. Stilton. 1, 2, 3. "What are you doing? Are you sleepwalking, Mrs. Stilton? You're about as graceful as a goat, Mrs. Rattle. I must warn you, I am truly a lost cause," I told her. "I can't dance. My Aunt Sweetfur always says I was born with 2 left paws." Mrs. Rattle didn't listen. She just clonked me on the tail again. "Young mouse, I've been teaching for the last 50 years. There's no such thing as a lost cause. Come on, hop to it. 1, 2, 3. Every time I messed up a step, she whacked me on the tail. "Youch!" I yelled. After hours of useless practice, Mrs. Rattle gave up. She broke a wooden stick over her knee in frustration. "You're right, Mr. Stilton. You really are a lost cause. I give up. It's impossible to teach you to dance." Everyone on the set, from the director to the costume designer to the lighting designer, was horrified. "Are you sure he can't be taught how to dance?" the director gasped. Mrs. Rattle shook her snout. "I tried all day, but he's a lost cause. He can't learn, and if I can't teach him, I don't know who can." So what can I do? Can I go home?" I said hopefully. "Can I pack my bags? Should I book a plane ticket?" That's when I heard a sweet voice squeak. "Don't worry, Geronimo. I'll teach you to dance. It's me, your old friend, Ratner." I turned and saw a stunning mouselet. Her soft fur was as delicate as hazelnut. Her eyes were as green as emeralds, and her lips were the color of coral. Her long hair reached to her waist like a curtain of shiny silk. She wore an embroidered golden sari and a sparkling diadem on her forehead. "Ratner, it really is you." She glided towards me with the graceful motions of a born dancer. "Geronimo, my dear friend, thank you for coming to my aid." Then she turned to Hercule. "Thank you, darling Hercule. It's so lovely to have you here with me. I feel safe knowing my 2 oldest friends are looking out for me." Ratner put her paw on my shoulder. "Just follow me, Geronimo. That's all you have to do. I'll teach you to dance," she squeaked softly. Musicians began to play on the sitar, a traditional Indian stringed instrument. The gentleness of the melody washed me over. Ratner sang along sweetly. Soon I was completely relaxed. I followed Ratner's lead, imitating her movements, following slowly, and then more and more swiftly. That's how I learned to dance. Before long, I felt as if my paws were flying across the floor. The director and the cast crew all clapped. "Bravo, Geronimo! Do it again!" Next, Ratner taught me to sing in Hindi. When I followed her sweet and melodic squeak, the words of the unfamiliar language became easier to pronounce. Over the next few days, Ratner helped me discover many more things in India. The more I got to know India, the more I liked it. Hercule grinned gleefully. "See, Jerrykins, what did I tell you? I knew you would enjoy our trip to India. It's positively banana-rific." After a few days of rehearsal, the entire crew left to start shooting the movie. The director Deb gave me a map of all the places we would have to visit. First, we would have to go to Sundarbans National Park in West Bengal. Then we would have to go to the jungle. My character had to explore until I found a tiger. A tiger? Thundering cattails! Next, I had to dive into the Ganges in Varanasi and swim in the enormous raging river. I would have to hope to be brave enough to do it. After that, I had to ride a horse to Jaipur. Did they expect me to gallop? A chill went down my tail. I have horrible history of motion sickness. Finally, I have to go to the Taj Mahal and Agra and declare my love to Ratner. I chewed my whiskers nervously. Would I be able to play a part of lovesick rodent? You see, I'm a very shy mouse. When we got to the jungle, I tried to hide in my trailer, but Hercule gave me a push. "Quiet on set," the director shouted. "Action, Mrs. Stilton. Please come in from the jungle looking courageous, bold, and daring. And smile as if you don't know what this place is a dangerous place. Famous for its wild tigers." "Oh, Mrs. Stilton, wouldn't it be mouse-tastic if a big, hungry tiger jumped out of the jungle?" The assistant director squealed. "If we're lucky, you'll run into one, Mr. Stilton." Just to double check. You've written your will, right? My will? Squeak. I almost passed out from fright. You see, I am a totally scaredy rat. I tried to sneak away, but Hercule grabbed me by the tail. Nuh-uh, Jerrykins. Don't make me look like a cheese face. Go on, take a little stroll in the jungle, and maybe you'll run into a teasy little tiger. That's when I heard a growl. It almost sounded like, no, actually, in fact, that was absolutely no doubt about it. It was the roar of a tiger. There was a real tiger right on my tail. I began to run as fast as my paws could carry me. For a moment, I slowed down as I thought about how happy the assistant director must be. Then I began scampering my tail off as I scurried away. A little monkey threw a banana at my snout, but an angry monkey was the least of my problems. My tail twitching with terror, I finally reached my trailer and locked myself in. The assistant director knocked at the door. Mr. Stilton, we have to reshoot that entire scene. We were so excited about the tiger, we forgot to turn on the movie camera. So we need you to take it from the top, from the moment the tiger began chasing you. Are you ready, Mr. Stilton? When we finished filming the scene with the tiger, I went back to my trailer and found my door wide open. Who had opened it? Someone had climbed on top of my trailer and left strange paw prints all over the roof. Whoever it was stole the fake rings I kept in my jewelry case and devoured all the Hercule's bananas. How strange. If I had found the thief who ate my bananas, I'll make mouse meat out of him. Hercule shrieked. You play with that rat, you get the tail. Then we discovered the objects had disappeared from the other actors' trailers. Especially objects that were sparkly. Fruit and treats were also missing, and whatever they were, a thief must have stolen it. We found the same strange paw prints, not just on the floor and furniture, but also on the roof. I hate to say it, but there's a thief on the loose, I squeaked. Rats. Well, the important thing is that this fur face didn't steal the heart of fire, said Hercule. Just to be on the safe side, we doubled the surveillance on Ratna and her Ruby. Anytime she went anywhere, we went with her. We were determined to protect her. The next morning, we left to Varanasi at dawn. From there, we continued on to Jaipur and then to Agra. When the time came to shoot the final scene where the prince declares his love in front of the Taj Mahal, I was very nervous. I knelt before Ratna and squeaked, Princess of Rajasthan, will you marry me? Yes, O Prince of Mysore, I will, she whispered. The orchestra swelled and all the dancers began to dance. This was our spectacular grand finale and the end of the movie shoot. How did I do? I said anxiously. The cast and the crew applauded. You were amazing, Mrs. Stilton. Bravo! I went back to my trailer to take off my makeup and turban. Hercule followed me. Rana joined us in the trailer a few minutes later. You've been fabumouse, my friends, she cried. Because of you, I have felt so safe and secure these past few weeks, and thanks to you, no one has stolen the heart of fire. I smiled. We're so happy we could help you, Ratna. Hercule nodded. Would you like a banana? No thanks, Hercule, but I would like to ask you one last favor, she continued. My fiancé and I have set out our wedding date, and it's to take place in Mumbai in a few days. Since you are my oldest friends and dearest, I would love for you to be a guest of honor at my wedding. We accepted happily, and then we packed our bags to Mumbai, the famous movie capital of India. When we got back to Mumbai, Vinay Ratting, Ratna's fiancé, came to meet us. The two mice hugged joyously. Vinay, these are my oldest friends, Ratna squeaked. He bowed. Your friends are my friends, darling. He kissed her paw. Come, we have to scurry up. Everything's ready for the wedding. He escorted us to the most beautiful hotel in Mumbai. The preparations for the wedding reception were in full swing. Ratna and Vinay had invited 1,000 guests. We saw a long table set up in the hall. Wow, 1,000 guests! This reception is totally mouse-rageous. Hercule exclaimed. Ratna scampered off for a quick rat nap. Tomorrow was a very big day for her and for all of us. The following morning, Ratna married Vinay Ratting. She looked absolutely radiant. The heart of fire sparkled from the front of her silk sari. After the ceremony, there was a fabumouse dinner with 1,000 happy guests. The wedding cake was whisker looking good. A statue of 2 miniature dancing mice twirled on top. But they didn't distract Hercule. He couldn't wait to taste a big bite. Yum, yum, yummy. We feasted all day, but dusk came at last. The sun slowly began to set, spreading its golden rays all over the roofs of Mumbai. It was time for the bride and the groom to dance their first dance. The ballroom, quickly with elegant rodents, began to dance and dressed in brightly coloured silk. We all chatted merrily in many different languages. The hall was on the 13th floor, and the view of Mumbai was spectacular. Oh, how brightly the lights of the city twinkled. It was the last night of our stay in India. Hercule and I was happy, and the shoot was over. But we had to leave India soon. We began reminiscing about our favourite parts of the trip. Hercule in particular was puffed up with pride. See, my dear Stilton, why, it's absolutely elementary. No crook stole the ruby. We thwarted the thief. We fooled the felon. The squeaks had barely left us now, if a shriek broke the night. The heart of fire has been stolen, Ratner cried. We scampered to Ratner's side and found our friends in tears. I had the ruby around my neck, she whimpered. I danced with my guests, and then we sat down with my groom. I realized I was no longer wearing the necklace. The crook tricked us. He hoodwinked us. He bamboozled us, cried Hercule. Don't despair. You can count on us, I said firmly. We'll catch the thief, Hercule nodded. We have no fear. Hercule Poirat is here. Together we turned to face the guests. Everyone freeze. Nobody move. No rodent sets a paw outside this room. Hercule searched the room while I searched the guests, but the ruby was nowhere to be found. Where could it have gone? As we looked for clues, we noticed strange set of paw prints on the bride and the groom's table. The prints led to a big picture window. To match the prints, I found my trailer during the shoot. The windows were wide open, and a gentle breeze made the curtains sway to and fro. I looked out the window, and I noticed a very narrow ledge below it. The paw prints continued on the ledge, and then onto the gutter. Maybe the thief had jumped to another roof from there, and hung from the gutter, and then he jumped from window to window until he disappeared. We were on the 30th floor. What kind of rat burglar could jump from that height? I looked around and noticed something strange. There was a tuft of fur caught in the lock of the window, and a banana peel lay on the edge. That thief had to be small, since no one had seen him near Ratner. He was very agile, since he had leaped out of the window from the 30th floor. He was losing tufts and fur, and he was obviously very fond of bananas. I thought about the paw prints I had found on my trailers, and the shiny objects that had gone missing, and all of the Hercule bananas that the mysterious thief had gnawed on. Then I remembered the little monkey that had boinked my head on with a banana when the tiger was chasing me through the jungle. That was the day I found my door to my trailer wide open. That's when all the robberies had begun. Suddenly, I had an inspiration. By cheese, I think I've got it. Our pickpocket is a primate. Our crafty crook is a monkey, I squeaked. The problem is catching him and finding the heart of fire. The monkey could be anywhere, and we had no idea where he'd been. But Hercule had a plan. I'm going to need the power of potassium. Quickly, bring me all the bananas you can find, he shouted to the waiters. The waiters scurried away. A few moments later, there was an enormous pile of bananas in front of Hercule. He began peeling one banana after another. Soon the air was filled with sweet scent of fresh bananas. I was starting to figure out what he was up to. Sometimes he thinks of some pretty ingenious ideas. Open all the windows and turn off the lights, he ordered. As soon as the room was dark, Hercule squeaked, and now everyone hushed. All the wedding guests froze, and the room fell silent. The only sound was the breeze swishing through the open windows. Suddenly, we made out a shape on the ledge of a window. Nimbling, it leapt into the room. Turn on the lights, Hercule shouted. As soon as the lights clicked on, we saw a little mouse wearing the heart of fire around its neck. Hercule gently poured him a banana. Hi, little one. Want a trade? He said softly. A banana for the ruby. The monkey didn't hesitate. He placed the ruby in Hercule's open paw and took the banana. Hercule proudly presented the heart of fire to Ratner. Thank you, my friends. I knew I could count on you, Ratner cried, hugging him. Here, have a banana. When I returned to New Mouse City, Restless Heart was already playing in movie theaters. It was a fantastic success. There were long lines in front of all the theaters in town. The movie's success had set off a craze for anything Indian. all across New York City. Indian-style clothing, music, and food were more popular than parmesan pastries. I went to the office and sat gloomily. The trip to India had been a fabumouse diversion, but I still hadn't come up with an idea for a new series of books. I tried to concentrate. I should publish the books on gardening, or on do-it-yourself projects, or on sports. Maybe I was completely focused on picking a topic when Hercule bounded in my office. "My dear Stilton, what are you up to? Still thinking of your old pal Ratner?" Zip it, shut your snout. "I'm thinking of a book to write," I grumbled, "as you are concentrated as a can of cheese and banana soup." He goggled. "I've got an idea. Just a tinsy little idea," he exclaimed. "Why don't you write a series of books on food you've eaten around the world, starting with India?" I had to admit, it was a really good idea, and that's how I came to publish a series of cookbooks called Goodness from Around the Globe. The books was a huge success. It's great to eat the traditional foods of your own country, but it's also great to discover flavors traditional to other countries. Variety is the spice of life. That's what's so great about diversity, and that's the truth. Or my name isn't Geronimo Stilton.